Everyone, I don't know if you guys can see Banditi. You're on my chair, aren't you, little dog? You're on my chair. Hi. Hi, you gonna say hello real quick? Say hello. Say hello to the people. Hi. Very good girl. Happy Friday, everyone. Bandita says, Happy Pride Month. We are so glad. We are here in the month of June, the best part of the year. All right, and go. All right, let's see where she ends up going. Hi, everyone. So I have new lighting I'm excited about. I just impulsively was like, I hate the lighting. I gotta get new lights. And so I bought new lights for the streaming setup, and I think they look really nice. I think they kind of make me look shiny, but also that could just be my skin. That could just be me. Yeah, I thought I'd do the banditti part at the beginning, not at the end. Is there something on the camera lens? Wait, I think there's something on the camera lens. 1 second. What? All right. I don't... It still seems like there's something on there. Okay, I won't... have to clean that later, I guess. Okay, whatever. Pride at Kink, Kink at Pride, all of the things, yes. Hi, everyone. So I will just say YouTube is having issues again with their stream stability because it's not like they run a multi-million-dollar, bajillion-billion-dollar platform. So if you are on Apple, if you're on Apple devices, there's a pretty good likelihood that the stream will crash and you won't be able to be part of it. So if you can watch on desktop or on an Android device, I guess those are working for some reason. I don't know what's going on with YouTube, honestly. But yeah, that's what we got going on today. I am finally happy it's summer, but I'm scared too because of the heat, because Republicans, between Republicans and backlash from our communities. Yep, that's definitely a big one for sure. Well, I hope that you all are having a good Friday. What's going on? Any fun plans happening? Any updates from the past week? What has been happening? I have been deep in organization mode. Check out this stuff that I got. I got some new, organizational notebook stuff, which I really needed, and I'm in organizing, cleaning, getting my life sorted out vibes, and I'm totally into it. And I'm happy for Pride Month, happy for all that. I found out that apparently the governor of Washington, who's Jay Inslee, apparently when they go through every year and they announce declaring June as Pride Month, they specifically include gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, intersex, two-spirit, non-binary, and asexual and aromantic. The governor of Washington knows that asexuals and aromantics exist, and it's I can't believe I'd never heard of that before because I lived there for years and I had no idea. I was just oh, Jay Inslee knows. We have somebody on our side, I guess, which is nice. Okay. I also wanted to let you guys know I did update the stream FAQ. It wasn't actually didn't really change a whole lot, but I updated a couple things, checked the links, and I want to make sure everyone knows, just for future point of reference, how we're going to handle stream infractions going forward. Is if it's a really grievous offense, you're trying to dox somebody, you're going to just get banned right away. If you come in here and are show me your feet, you're gonna get banned. Okay, that's just how it is. That's the same. But if it's a more mild infraction, if you're asking something that's kind of borderline, could be offensive, but also possibly could just be poorly phrased and is well intentioned, we're gonna have a 3-strike system where if you have to be put out into timeout 3 times or more, then you get blocked. So just be aware. Listen to the mods, read the rules. Really, I feel we're mostly pretty chill, but obviously, don't be hateful, basically. It's the only thing I ask. I really would love some lemon in this water right now. I was lemon water sounds awesome, but I don't have any lemons, so we're gonna have to deal with that. But okay, I am really quickly here. Too many things going on. I am going to pin something for the chat. So I guess I'll just do my usual spiel. So if you're new here, hi, hello, welcome to our Friday night live streams. We do this every Fridays at 6 o'clock Pacific times. That's 9 o'clock on the East Coast. We actually have it pretty well timed to where if you're most places in the world, you can watch us like pretty easily. So we also do the stream, I think it's depending, I don't know, like British summertime. I don't know how Europe does that. Like somewhere around 2, 3 a.m. in Europe. And then, actually, if you're from Europe, let me know. Are you watching? What time is it there? Let me know. And then if you're in the UK, or in Australia rather, in New Zealand, I believe it's 11 a.m., like early, like late morning, early afternoon, Australia and New Zealand time. So we're here every Friday for you guys to ask questions, and this is an interactive BDSM Q&A, and we basically talk about stuff related to kink, pop culture, queer stuff, asexuality, polyamory, relationships, dating, all of that. And as long as it's like not terribly offensive, we kind of just talk about whatever, and we get also really good questions, and obviously people in the chat, we have a really good community here, and we oftentimes draw from the audience as well. And thank you so much for the super chat, Amy. Happy Pride, stay safe as always, but let us continue fighting for equality for all minorities while not forgetting our queer history. Yes, excellent sentiment to start off our month with here. I think that is wonderful. That is what we are here for today. I don't know if I'm going to go to like any Pride stuff this year. I'm kind of nervous about it, especially because I'm in Portland now. I'm like, do I want to go? I feel like for some reason Portland ends up being like, it's like Portland is like the epicenter of hate for a lot of people. Like when like the people who mean us harm, not to get like too heavy at the start of this, but like people who mean us harm, I feel like Portland is just like the hate sink city of like, oh my god, the terrible blue-haired feminists in Portland ruining the planet. It's like, have you been to Portland? Like, do you guys know what it's like around here? Like, it's very silly to me, like, the way that people think about it, but they do. So, I'm not sure what my plans are for Pride. However, if anyone here has watched it, no spoilers yet, I think we'll end up doing a movie night for Patreon where we're going to do maybe one like full day. I don't know if I want to do a full day, but we might, of marathoning The Ultimatum Queer Love, which is on Netflix, and it is a queer reality dating show, and there's poly people in it and like non-binary folks in it. It should be a really interesting time, and I'm like so for it, and I really want to watch it, but it's like most of the episodes are like 50 minutes long. It would be like we have to power through to watch all that in one sitting. But I think it could be fun to do like maybe like episodes 1 through 5 and then episodes 6 through 10, because it's 10 episodes long. And the remaining episodes won't be out until June 6th, I want to say. So we may be doing a movie night for that. But just to finish up kind of my intro spiel here, like I said, interactive Q&A, 18 plus only because of the subjects we talk about. We don't get too many people in here that are like, hi, I'm blah, blah, blah years old, and I want to know about this. But in case you are, please do not participate in the chat. That is for everyone's safety, my safety, your safety, everyone's safety. We just mixing minors and sex and kink and adults all together, not generally a good idea. And then also please read the rules down below. They just got updated literally yesterday. I changed them. They're if you know what this stream is like, there's no really radical changes, but there are some links to some new resources and other things going on in there. So you can look at that if you want to. So that is what to know about the stream, getting started with it. And then it is Pride Month as well. And as you saw, we had a super chat coming earlier. And the way that I operate these streams is I go in the order roughly of what comes in first. So if you come in early, ask your question early. I will get to it sooner. I cannot promise I will answer your question unless you use a super chat or Streamlabs down below. Either option works great depending on just what you prefer to do. YouTube, not YouTube. YouTube has been kind of buggy recently, I feel like, so maybe I would not trust Google with your money right now if you had the option to do something else. But that is what you need to know. By sheer coincidence, I'll be in Seattle for Pride Fest this month, trying to convince my partners that we should go. I think you should go. Seattle is definitely a really good spot to go to. And if you haven't been through Capitol Hill before, or you haven't been around it a lot, like, please check it out. Like, I really love it. I miss being able to go to Capitol Hill. And if you want to have a little bit of both worlds, you can check out Doghouse Leathers. I think they probably still operate a brick and mortar store. I haven't checked in on them, but that's a really good kinky queer. I mean, it's really more for gay men. And there's like a story I could. I tried to get custom work done there before, like custom like leather working done for like a belt or something. And they basically, after they'd already taken the commission, because we knew somebody who worked there, they came back and were basically like, we don't feel comfortable, or like we don't want to do work for like women, basically. I don't know, it was like years ago, so I don't really remember what was said, but basically they just denied doing the work because I wasn't a gay man. So maybe don't go there for leather stuff, but they're a good store otherwise. It was just like, it's like really hurtful to be like, wait, what? Like, first of all, I can be part of the leather community or be kinky, and like, also, I'm giving you money. Why would you say no to my money? Like, I would get it if I was like, homophobic or something. Like, if I was Matt Walsh coming in there being like, make me a leather artist for Pride, like, I'd get it, but it was just very strange. But they're a good store otherwise. I don't know, like, what's going on there. Yeah. Okay, all right, I want to pin a comment. I really should just have like a thing I can copy paste. That would probably be smart. Oh, also, I wrote a 4,000 word book review. So if you guys want to hear that or read that, it's going to be up. I wrote like an Atlantic article worth of book review. Hopefully you guys will like it. And I'm back in summer reading mode. So if you have summer reading recommendations for like new kink stuff, erotica, I should check out, like, also definitely let me know. That's always a good time. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's not what I wanted. I am I'm not quite a Luddite, but I'm approaching that rapidly. Okay, here we go. That's what I wanted. I want something that had a link in it. There we go. All right, we'll see if that does anything at all. And then again, by the way, if you're on an Apple device, YouTube is being buggy with streaming and Apple devices. So if you're on one of those, if you can, switch over to being on a desktop or in browser or something, because that's usually a little bit more stable. So the book I am doing a review on is this one. It is Hot and Unbothered. And as you can see, we've got quite a lot of notes in here. I got this one just like on a whim, kind of. I'd been looking at it for a while. It had been recommended to me a bunch of times before. And I found it at Powell's, which is a really big bookstore here in Portland. And I just was like, okay, I'm going to read this. And actually, there's a lot in here that I think is like, there's a lot of like actionable stuff. So let's see if I can like show you guys something, right? Like, here's like a big section on like setting verbal boundaries. So the concept of the book is about like developing a better relationship with sex. And it's like vanilla oriented, but I think a lot of it is very applicable to like a kink context, right? Like, because there's like relational boundaries, physical boundaries, all things I think are like really good for just anyone in any kind of relationship. But then also there's stuff that's very much like applicable to kink too. There's sort of like an aftercare and communication guideline in here. So lots of stuff, lots of good explanations. There's a lot in here about like making sustainable long-term connections in sex and in other things. And like it's possible that there's going to be stuff in here that you already know really well, but even for me, as you can tell by the number of bookmarks, there are a lot of things in here that either I didn't know how to articulate that way or hadn't quite heard said that way before. So I think that it's like definitely worth it if you can find it. It was like $12, $13 used. I don't know how much it is if you buy it new. I think it's like maybe $17, $19 if you buy it new, but I thought it was a pretty good book. And then the person who wrote it is a licensed marriage and family therapist, so they definitely know what they're talking about. And yeah, if you like reading about stuff like this, it's a really good read. And then if you are somebody that has kind of questions about like desire discrepancy or navigating boundaries or really changing up a relationship or things like that, like I think this is a good resource to have. And yeah, I liked it. Big review coming out to a website near you at some point. I gotta proofread my review first before I publish it, but that'll hopefully be up tonight. So that is that book. There just hasn't been a lot of new like kinky nonfiction that's been published that I haven't read yet, and so I was like, I just really want to read something, and so I got that, and then I got another book that's like more about communication styles. But yeah, okay, let's get into some questions. Oh, I'm sorry you had a bad day at work. Well, hopefully you will enjoy the live stream. Glad you could make it. I impulse bought a weighted blanket because I like compression. It's amazing. Yeah, I know a lot of people really enjoy the weighted blankets. I have used one before. They're not my favorite. I know people that have used them and they get like nightmares from using them when they sleep. I like them occasionally, but I find they're like usually too heavy for me, but they are really good. Yeah. Good aftercare tool. Aftercare for life, honestly. Question, what kind of mic do you use when you're recording? Is it the same you use when streaming? What kind of camera do you use? Same for both as well. So what I use for streaming, everything's different. I have two different setups because like it would be, if I had to unplug and replug all the stuff back in, it would be such a nightmare. It would be such a nightmare. So I use different things. This is a Shure M7, and then the camera I'm using is a Sony Alpha series, but I don't remember which one it is, and I'm not sure how to. I guess I could probably just look at my like devices list and then be able to tell you. But they are different. And then the microphone that I use for filming is a Sennheiser MKE 400, I want to say. It's a hot shoe mic. Yeah, it's the... No, that's not it. It's like kind of got an interesting shape to it. It's a 440. Okay. It's basically like two microphones stuck together. It looks like this. The one that I use for filming. And then the camera I use is a Panasonic Lumix G7. I have upgraded to a newer camera since then. I haven't started filming with it yet because I'm waiting for like the rest of my filming area setup to be done, because I don't want to like piecemeal a bunch of changes. I want to just be like all of a sudden different environment for filming and then just go with it after that point. So I have it technically, but I haven't switched over to that yet, and I like all the stuff that I'm using. The one thing I wasn't really liking was the camera for recording videos. It was not good for focusing. Like I have to stand right there, one place, nothing in the background. If I have anything like a necklace or a shiny collar or anything in the background, like lights or a candle or sparkly things or a curtain that moves, anything at all, it defocuses on my face and it'll focus on the background. So I do not like it for that reason. But the new camera that I got instead to replace it, which is basically, it's an upgraded version from the same series, and yeah, they're all really good. I really like everything. It's definitely been a lot of like work to compile all the stuff together and find what works, and then the lights are like brand new as of yesterday. I got them on Tuesday, Wednesday, somewhere in there. Where do I see? Okay. It just says cam link. It doesn't actually tell me which camera it is. So I'm sorry I can't tell you exactly which Sony camera it is, but it's like a Sony Alpha. Oh, here it is. A6000, I think. Yeah, that looks right. I think that looks like it's the same one. Okay. So somewhere in there. And it's good. But I mean, if you're asking because you're interested in getting started with streaming, the reason why I don't use this camera for filming is because I can't both have a microphone on the hot shoe on top and also see the monitor at the same time. So I have to, like, the way that I have it now, I have the viewfinder like up on top of the body of the camera, like it articulates out like this, and so I can't have both a head, like a microphone plugged in directly to the camera, and also have this up at the same time. Also, thank you for the super chat. I think I missed that, but thank you. Yeah, so hopefully that answers that question. I think this microphone is really good, though. This one is definitely worth the money. It survived a sudden power outage caused by lightning, so I think that makes it pretty good in my book. I thought there was pride stuff happening at a place, but there wasn't, so I bought a joint and took my cat to the park. Wait, you took your cat to the park? Do you have a cat leash? I need to know about that. That sounds very fun. I would be delighted if I saw a cat at a park. That would be very fun. Oh, it's 3 a.m. and it is 2 a.m. in the UK? Okay. So there's a difference between Central and UK time. It is 11 in Australia. Well, now we know. Hey, Evie, happy Friday. Do you know of any BDSM birthday traditions? So I don't know of one that anyone like universally does in the kink scene. I would say birthday spankings are very popular, as you can imagine, because they're also a thing from everyday vanilla life as well. And I have gone to events before where for everyone who's born that month, they'll have a party, usually at the beginning of the month. Ha! PK to crime. Well, yeah, I mean, that's what the month's all about. That's the spirit of the season. But for spanking, for birthday spankings, some parties, if they have it like on a weekly basis or on a monthly basis, at the beginning of the month, they'll do like a group spanking for everyone who's born that month if they want a spanking. But also individual people will do birthday spankings, or they'll go to an event on or around their birthday and be like, it's my birthday. Who wants to do what to me? Usually people are really happy to have like a fun, silly, lighthearted spanking, or a more serious thing if that's what you want. But I think spanking is really the only thing that I've seen people do for birthdays before. I'm sure other places do other things. Like, I have seen people, and I've participated in this as well, do like kinky birthday piñatas where the person whose birthday it is will like hold a bunch of candy or have candy strapped to them, and then they get, you know, suspended in the air and then hit with a bat until they drop the candy. But that one's like a lot more involved to do, so it's less common, whereas spanking you can pretty much do anytime, anywhere. You were outed as a swinger and fired for it? Oh my gosh, Robert, I'm so sorry. That is... People, like, it's like, why does that matter to your professional life at all? Like, nobody gets fired for cheating on their spouse. So if it's consensual, why is that a problem? Like, they wouldn't fire somebody for cheating. But when it's consensual and open, suddenly it's a problem. Like, oh, the double standard. The double standard for sure. Any tips for someone that's single and is brand new to the BDSM scene? Yes. The only experience I have is about 24 of your videos and dozens of spicy audios. Well, love the spicy audios. So I actually have a video that I filmed last week that you guys are going to see in a couple weeks, where I talk about the benefits of exploring BDSM as a solo participant. And I explained in that video how I prefer saying solo participant over single, because I feel like single is like the label of it comes across like it's a temporary thing you're doing until you find a partner, which can be true for some people, but also some people like willingly choose to do BDSM solo as a long-term thing because that's what they want to do. They don't want partnerships. They don't want to date. They want to be able to have their own experience and not have that be tied to somebody else. So yeah, I think there's totally lots of ways to explore the BDSM scene as a single person. And I think like that's great. Like I think actually there's a lot of benefits. There's a lot of benefits to being able to explore as a single person because your experience gets to be your experience, right? Like you don't have to worry about, oh, does my dom like this? Can we go there together? Does this work with their schedule and my schedule? You can just do what you want to do. I think especially if you are, as you say, a baby sub, which, hi, welcome. We love the baby subs. If you are a baby sub and you are newer to the scene and single, that can lead certain unsavory characters to act inappropriately and do things that maybe we don't want them to be doing or saying, which is unfortunate. But as I think you can be single and also still have a support network. So it's not about like rushing into finding a dom or finding a partner, but I love social events or discussion groups. Look for munches, discussion groups, book clubs, movie clubs, board game nights, karaoke nights are really popular here. Look for something that's not specifically a play party, like basically anything except a play party. Go to those, meet people, and usually, at least in my experience, people are almost always very welcoming, especially for like a new single person, and like, oh, why are you here? What are you into? How long have you been, learning about BDSM for? And hopefully they will take you in and you'll find some people and connect that way. And if you ever feel uncomfortable, if you feel like somebody's backing you into a corner, not taking no for an answer, being really aggressive, you like please feel empowered to leave, get somebody who operates the event, like make a big scene about it. Like please do not restrain yourself if you feel like somebody's behaving inappropriately. I know I've been in scenarios where when I was very, very first in the scene, I had like people I was playing with, but I didn't have like a set partner yet at that point. When I very first was in the scene and I was going by myself as a single, like brand new sub person, there definitely were people that, looking back on it, were contacting me and interacting with me in a way that at the time I thought was well-intentioned, but now with more experience, I look at in a different light. And maybe I should like talk about that, and like maybe it'd be helpful to have like a video where I talk about those experiences in detail as like an educational thing for just like recognizing patterns. Why do I even call that if I made a video about that? Like like learning from my newbie mistakes? Like I don't know. But maybe I should just call it that, like learning. Let's start even a separate idea as like learning from my mistakes versus like the worst mistakes I've made in BDSM or something. I don't know. But to get back to like tips for somebody who's single, I think it's great if you're watching videos, also reading books. There's podcasts, there's audiobook versions for a number of things as well. Tons of options for more education. And I think if you keep doing that and you go to some social events, you're definitely going to be on the right path. And just don't let anyone pressure you. If anyone says anything that's like, real subs do this, or you're supposed to be molded by a dom, so it's okay you don't know what you like yet because your dom's supposed to tell you. If you hear anything like that, just run away. Bad. Don't involve yourself, and hopefully you'll find some good people and have some fun times. And obviously, if you want to find events, the best place to do that is FetLife. I have a video that I linked down below that I made a couple months ago that's a completely updated, like going through the whole site, looking at everything you want to know about FetLife and how to make an account and all my tips for that. And it's very detailed. Also, I'm sorry, my dog has once again decided to be on the opposite side of the room from the camera and where I can put the camera because she is just, I think it just gets really hot in here. It'll just be like the cold spot in the room, I guess. I'm actually really hot today too, which does not normally happen because I'm currently wearing pants because I got new pants. I got like the kind of pants that's like the very like right now pants, like the really wide, like ripped denim jeans. And I thought I only ever saw people wearing them that were like the really, really, really light wash, and I hate those. So I was like, I gotta find ones that are black. If I could wear ones that are black, I'd be into it. And then I found ones that were black. So I kind of feel a little bit like, it's because I currently have this shirt tucked into the pants. I sort of feel like a butch lesbian wearing this outfit. Like, I sort of feel like I've seen somebody at a leather convention wear this outfit before, but not with ripped jeans and like a mesh shirt, but like a baggy shirt and like wide leg jeans. I'm like, oh, with a belt. Like, okay, I feel like I'm in a different era, but good question. Okay. Okay, question from Lexi. I think I'm developing an affinity for punishment. I don't like bratting or intentionally breaking our rules, but I love seeing my husband take charge like that. Any advice on balancing that? Well, I think it sounds like, and I need to get some water here first. I think it sort of sounds like you've already identified like the underlying reason for why you enjoy punishment and how that doesn't tie into bratting or want to be disobedient. And the core part of it is you want to like, or you enjoy it when your husband takes charge. So I think the way to avoid bratting or to avoid eroding your relationship is to make space in other ways where you can see your husdom, how they can take charge like that, right? Like if you're comfortable doing more punishment type stuff where it's more of a pre-negotiated role play thing, like you agree ahead of time that before he comes home from work, you're going to be in the kitchen and you're going to be making the wrong thing for dinner, right? You're making the right thing for dinner, really, actually. It's not a big problem. Not going to make two things for dinner. But he comes home and is like, woman, I don't know how you guys' role play goes, but like sort of the stereotypical, like, woman, I told you I wanted pot roast for dinner. What is this casserole garbage? And then like you get punished for like not being an obedient housewife and you're not making the right kind of thing for dinner, but you're not actually like really breaking a rule at all. It's just like a role play thing for fun and like getting to have that experience where your partner gets to take charge. And outside of that, I think what a lot of people do to be able to engage in that, like, well, like when my partner like takes charge kind of a feeling, is probably trying to think of if there's a phrase that describes this, because there's punishment, which is a very particular kind of role play style, but it's not exactly what I'm thinking of. Like, I'm almost kind of like, you know, the stereotype of like, oh, you just gotta take her and do what you want to her, and it's like, whoa, okay, buddy, slow down, like, consent's important. It's sort of like that, but not in like a rough body play, primal play way. It's more like I guess, do you like it because you like seeing your partner like be strong and be able to overpower you? Or is it because you want to have your partner be able to have authority over you because you were doing something wrong and they're correcting you? Because if it's, I like being physically overpowered and being reminded that they are more powerful than I am, then I would probably go more into like, oh, well, you could probably plan to do more regular spontaneous scenes that aren't connected to a punishment at all. Like, I'm just going to come home and then like I'm going to decide to just like take you in the kitchen and give you a spanking because I just feel like it. Or if it's more of the I need to feel like I'm being corrected about something, I think that's when you get into like constructing impossible tasks where like the point is that you are supposed to fail. Like, you have 5 minutes to fold all 50 towels or whatever, or a minute to load and unload the dishwasher, and then you can't do it because it would be impossible to do, and then you get punished because you failed the thing. So that's not like anything tied to breaking rules or disrupting the structure of your relationship, but it is reinforcing it because it's separate, but also still showing you that your partner has the ability to enforce things, and hopefully like that'll be a more positive direction to go in. And I think if you want more things like that in your relationship and you're gravitating more towards it, maybe doing something like this maybe once a week, every other week, that could be a good way to kind of satiate that need, so you're not worried about like actually breaking rules that you shouldn't be breaking, you know? Not overpowered, just him asserting his dominance. Yeah, I mean that's sort of a the meme, right? With the like getting your like arms pinned like behind you, like against the wall, you know? Like you can definitely have like acts of dominance. Well, I guess even that, is that overpowering? Is that just like the difference between overpowering and asserting dominance? Like I guess in this case maybe dominance is more like authority and leadership and less like physical ability, maybe? Just asserting dominance for dominance sake. Yeah, exactly. I really like that idea, actually. Yeah, exactly. Like if you're into like mind game stuff, if you're into emotional sadomasochism at all, this is a really good way to do that and have it be more contained and not spread out until like the rest of the relationship. All right, hopefully that gives you some things to think on. But yeah, I think balancing it, it really is just going to like just have separate containers for it. And then, I mean, if you feel like you're bratting too much, like you just check in with your partner. Because I think from what you've talked about before, since you guys have like a really like open communicative relationship that's really healthy. And so it shouldn't be too much of a problem to be able to check in and be like, am I bratting too much? Is this not being effective anymore? Where do we want to go with this? Are you feeling okay with this? And if you can do that, you'll hopefully be in a good place. You're the best. Well, thank you so much. I am just out here trying my best to help with my knowledge and experience. Yeah, definitely leadership and authority. Yeah. I will bring it up on the next meeting on Sunday. Love it. I hope your meeting goes well on Sunday. Yeah, definitely. You're so welcome. I love helping. It is why I do what I do. I feel like water sports is really popular for the gay men scene. Like water sports is everywhere. I'm getting Facebook ads for men's leather vests. That's funny. Actually, it's funny to me that Facebook allows that, but maybe they kind of, it's fashion, so it's fine. Non-sexual platonic DS. How should I safely practice the dynamics with friends or those wanting to learn? Okay, that is a great question. So I think regardless of who you're playing with, new person, existing friends, like I think it's great that you want to do all of that. I think it's like being mindful is like really, really key. And I think the number one thing you can do is, I'm going to briefly make an analogy here because it's coming up in my brain and it might not be helpful, but this is for me and possibly anyone else who relates to this. So, you know how when you're doing, if you're doing like most painting, typically you start with like a sketch first. Like if you're doing watercolors, you usually start with like a sketch first and then you like paint where you've already sketched out because you've got like a road map there. And I think it's really key to have a roadmap at the beginning of the relationship. You don't have to have like a contract or like a sit down, like 50 Shades in the meeting room type thing. You don't have to do that. But having some kind of like, hey, this is a conversation we're going to have. I want to make sure you know this is where our relationship is going, and set up boundaries around what you're okay with, not okay with on both sides. Also definitely for you, I'm imagining that you are probably the D type if you're wondering how to steer this in the right direction. But that would mean things like talking about like falling in love or kissing or like physical touch after a scene, or like is it okay to touch genitals if it's during a scene and it's not sexual, like, or nipple clamps sexual. Like be very, very specific around like what touch is okay, what speech is okay, the goals for the relationship, and then if you feel like things are going too far, a plan to be able to reel that back in. Like if you want to just stay in a very contained place, I think it can also be helpful to have limits in terms of how long that relationship's going to go on for, or in what areas you are doing that DS, because like if you're trying to keep it non-sexual and platonic, right? Having control over somebody's masturbation habits, probably like that could end up going in a place where you don't want it to end up. So just be very clear about like, I will not do these things, right? This is not like we get started and then when you get comfortable, we then change the relationship. Because for new people, and I don't know who you're talking about, if there's like a specific person or what, I'm just going to say in general, I do know a lot of people where their goal ultimately is to get to a sexual romantic DS relationship, and they're not comfortable with that yet. So what they'll do is they'll kind of like foot in the door, be like, oh, I'm fine just doing platonic or non-sexual, that feels safer to me, with the intention, because of vanilla culture and how vanilla culture works, that if you just keep going for long enough and you develop a level of comfort, it'll just become sexual. And that's like, obviously, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, what you really wanted all along too. And so they're just playing along with the game. I would be very clear about this will not become this type of a thing. We're staying here and it's not going to go out here. And if it does, it'll only be, I think, like after a break, maybe, if you decide you want to go in that direction. Like if you're with somebody and you are doing DS with them for the first time, their first relationship, or you're friends for a long time, and then you do this, I think it makes a lot of sense to just slow down and be like, all right, we did 6 months of this platonic thing. We still have feelings. It feels like really good, really connective. Let's take a break for like a month and then revisit and see, do we want to reinvest with a slightly different relationship? So that way you're clear-headed. You're not in the middle of sub frenzy, dom frenzy, new relationship energy simultaneously all together at once, because that is quite the combination to have all together, and means you might not be making the best choices for yourself long term versus what you really want for yourself. So just set up those really clear boundaries, and don't go farther than what you're comfortable with. They can definitely tell you about their boundaries. And just because I have this really like quickly here as a visual example, I will show you this. Oh, perfect. That was like, it's right in like the middle of the book, so it's like really easy to scroll to. It's a book. Why scroll? No, flip to. All right, I'm too online. All right, so this is like a yes, no, maybe checklist. Like, have them on their own, fill out a yes, no, maybe checklist, go through that, fill out your own, figure out where the overlaps are, talk about that, and then just like stay very inside their boundaries. If you don't want to be pushing boundaries, you don't want to get to red, then just be very clear. I think that's really it. And then have an open line of communication. I think in terms of safety for new people, encouraging them to educate themselves, doing demonstrations and talking about what you're doing and why you're doing it before you do a scene with them, right? Like if you want to introduce a new person to rope bondage, you can go to an event space or take a class where you talk about rope and why you're doing it that way, and going, hey, you see them, they're doing this thing and this is why, or when I do this, I do this thing, or like same thing with a flogging or a spanking or anything else. Just give lots of opportunities for demonstrations and education. I think where even people that mean well, because when people don't mean well, this goes bad in a lot of other different ways too, but if they mean well, I think the one area where people can sometimes unintentionally mess with somebody's practice and their kink experience early on is they make it seem like they're the source for information, right? You're with me because I can tell you how to do everything, and I am correct, I am right, I am the arbiter of like true kinkiness for some reason. And that's obviously not true, right? It is not the case that you are the only source for information. It's really good to encourage people to practice on their own, learn on their own, and then share that knowledge with you. And you can even build that into your relationship of, you are expected to read one book a month and then give me a report on it. Like that's something I've heard a lot of people do for kind of these more beginner, almost sort of like mentorship-esque DS relationships, where if you're trying to encourage the person to be independent from you in some regards, right? That can mean like if you want them to go out and date more, like you'd encourage them to do that. But it's a lot of like, you have to read this book and then write me an essay about it, or watch this movie and give me a summary of your top 5 takeaway points from it, or you are going to go to this class and then you're going to give me your class notes, right? Because I want you to be aware of what you're doing and not just like sitting in the back seat. So yeah, lots of ways to learn stuff and kind of stay in those guideposts, stay in those guidelines for sure. I'm doing pretty well. I love the summer. I feel great. Having a good time. It's also being buggy on Android. Okay, that's the first I've heard of that. I was having some issues earlier with a different stream on my phone, but I thought it was maybe because they ended the stream. But YouTube is just, I don't know what they're doing. Somebody's changing something on the back end, but I don't know who's doing what. Yeah, no sex robots for me. Will not be doing that. I appreciate the elaborate explanation and ideas. Yes, of course. I am so glad that you appreciated it. That's why I try to recommend books in this cool goth who teaches kink on YouTube. Well, that is me. Very much a casual goth on YouTube. I just can't be bothered to be like, I just can't be bothered. That's really it, isn't it? Just can't be bothered. My wife and I are swingers exploring kink for the first time. We went to a dungeon camp out where I did some tasting, but wife didn't because she had surgery that week and didn't want marks. I mean, hey, yeah, having marks before surgery and like bruising, that can definitely be a problem for some medical professionals. Where I live, they're trying to do a lot more education in terms of making sure that medical professionals are aware of like consensual kink things versus, you know, things that are not consensual, maybe, let's say. And I have seen I talk online of, you know, people that work in like they're tattooers or I guess tattoo artists, maybe that's, I don't know if like tattooers versus tattoo artists, what people prefer, but one of those two. People that work as estheticians, people that are massage therapists. I have seen them kind of sharing some information around of like, here's what to do if somebody comes in with BDSM marks to your practice. And basically what they've said is like, usually when they have clients, if they have something that is consensual, they're very proactive about explaining it. And that's always like a really good sign. So if you do end up at some point in the future, for anyone in the chat, if you're somebody that, you know, you forget you have a doctor's appointment on Tuesday and then you do like a crazy scene on Saturday night, you still have marks on Tuesday, you can just always be open and honest. I think being proactive and just explaining like before they do the exam on whatever part of the body it's on, if they're going to be looking at it, you can just say, hey, just so you know, I have this type of mark in this part of my body. It's from a consensual interaction. I wanted it. It was a good time. If you have any questions or concerns about that or how it might be affecting me medically, please let me know. I'm happy to answer any of those questions, but I just want to make sure that you understand that it's like, it's there. Don't be surprised. I know it's there. It was from a fun time, right? Like, when I used to get sugaring done, I used to get Brazilian sugared, and now I don't anymore. But at the time I did. And there were a couple times when I went in and I had bruises on my thigh, on my butt somewhere, and I'd explain. And then I think I just literally, they were like, oh, what's this? And I was like, oh, it's from a fun time. And then they were like, oh, okay, cool. And then that was it. Like, they were just like, as long as they know that it's, you know, not something that you might need help with, they're usually fine. Book recommendation number 2, Hurt So Good, The Science and Culture of Pain on Purpose. I have had that on my to-read list for a long time, and I'm trying to read more physical books. So I've kind of been going what I can find used copies of, but I will keep that in mind. Oh, yeah, other one. Butts, A Backstory by Heather Radke? I never know how to say that last name. Rake? I have never heard of this before. Okay, it came out in November. Oh, interesting. It's about like it's literally about the scientific and cultural history of butts and like fetish size. Oh, that's so interesting. Okay, cool. Not exactly like what I would normally read, but sounds like it could be really interesting. So I appreciate that. The art, the cover art for it, I hate. Kind of the cover for it is, I don't know, it's kind of trying to do pop art, but it kind of fails. I don't know, kind of like it looks like a free Amazon, free with Prime $0 Kindle download book cover. Maybe that's too judgmental. I don't know. Not I think it's the yellow with the orange is what's throwing me off. I think if it was just like maybe a green background or something, I wouldn't. I don't know. Not my favorite. I am a princess, and I think I have been a tyrant to my daddy because I am a perfectionist. How can I provide him reassurance besides saying everything's okay? I want to be benevolent. Okay. So, you have a daddy, and you're a princess. So, okay, I really want to answer this. I need to make sure I understand what this means yet. Are you, because you're using a lowercase for you and an uppercase for him, am I correct in understanding that he is the D type in the relationship and you are the S type? But wanting to be benevolent to him comes across a little bit like you want to be nicer to him because like you're the one who's in charge, but I definitely, let me know. I think he feels obligated to perform every service possible so I don't get anxious. He will work a 12-hour shift and sacrifice himself to fold laundry for me. I'm submissive in the bedroom. Oh, okay, yeah. So he's sort of like the caretaker side is very, very strong, but also you're submissive in the bedroom. So he's like definitely got more of that like service oriented dominant caretaker thing. Okay, cool. I appreciate the clarification because that really helps. I mean, one is he gets to choose where to spend his energy and you can offer him reassurance, but if he is choosing to take 12-hour shifts or stay up until 2 a.m. folding laundry for you, you can ask him not to do it and tell him you don't need to do that, but he gets to make that choice for himself because he is an adult and you can't like control, like, because you're not the dom, right? You can't control his feelings or control his actions in that direction as long as you're letting him know that you don't need that. That's like a thing that he has to work on in himself. I definitely know people where they are very uncomfortable with other people's discomfort, and so in order to avoid the thing that makes them uncomfortable, they are willing to go way above and beyond what the other person ever asked for or wanted in order to avoid that discomfort ever really coming up. But it's going to come up, right, at some point. And I think being a perfectionist is a very difficult problem. Like, it's both very common, and I want to validate that, but also it is something that a lot of people go through, and it does take work to be able to have a different framework of how you think about things and not wanting everything to be totally perfect. I think if I was in your scenario and I saw a partner or I had a partner that was really putting themselves out in a way that I thought was detrimental more than I would ever want them to do, and they kept doing it, I would maybe communicate something like, I'm gonna like use the titles in here, but like if you guys don't talk to each other this way, like just do whatever makes sense for how you speak. But something like Daddy, thank you so much for wanting to take care of me. It's really great that you're working so hard, and I can see how dedicated you are to me in a relationship, and I'm concerned that you are maybe hurting yourself trying to do this, and I don't want you to do that. So maybe in the future, could you not put yourself out when you're trying to help me? I can take care of XYZ thing. You don't have to do that. I don't want you to do that. And actually makes me sad or uncomfortable if you feel like you have to do that. So I'd really prefer if you didn't. Just like make sure it's really clear that he knows like you aren't asking for this to be done. And like it kind of like maybe he's a little bit of a perfectionist too. If he's like, you know, it's okay if the laundry doesn't get folded every day. It's okay. You just leave it. You just leave it be. Yeah, I have encouraged him multiple times to care for himself first. I mean, it's really difficult. It's really difficult for people that have that mentality of, and it's something I talk about. I don't remember what video this is in, but I talked about, I think it's like the hardest lesson for doms to learn, or the hardest lessons for dominance or something. And the hardest lesson I think for a lot of doms to learn is to take care of themselves first. I think a lot of doms that are more on the benevolent caretaker side of things, they will do everything else for the other person before they do something for themselves. And this is also true. A lot of S-types do this too. It's not like a one-way thing, but they are going above and beyond to like, you know, say good morning and make sure you have clothes picked out and making your lunch, and they work really hard and they do all this stuff all the time. They're always thinking about you, checking in on you, asking you about your day, correcting you, fixing you, helping you, and then they never really stop and slow down to help themselves. And I think sometimes that can be a coping mechanism for like, it's more comfortable to fix other people than it is to fix ourselves, right? Like it's very difficult to look at what we're doing, look at our behavior, and then go, oh, I should fix it. Like it's instinctual, especially in a relationship, to go, well, they should be doing this. They need to fix this. They're doing this wrong. And not even in a malicious way of like, they're bad and I dislike them, but just in a, like, you're trying to help somebody else. And so naturally, you know, you're going to go towards helping other people first before you help yourself. But really, like if you really want to help other people, the best thing you can do is help yourself first. Yeah, I've told him that too. I mean, maybe just hearing it from an outside party like me is helpful. Like maybe just knowing that like it's not just you saying this. Like this is a thing. And they talk about perfectionism a little bit in this book that I just read. Because a lot of people have what's called like sexual imposter. I don't know why I had trouble saying that yesterday too. It's like imposter syndrome. So for example, like this is for imposter, but I think also applies to this scenario of like perfectionism, like kind of in a general way, because imposter syndrome and perfectionism I think are really closely linked. But this says, happily, the research on combating traditional imposter syndrome offers us some effective ways to think differently about failure that are easily applicable to our sex lives and the fear of failure that can come with sexual imposter syndrome. 1, view good sex as a spectrum of dynamic experiences rather than as a binary pass-fail performance. 2, move away from a fixed mindset and towards a growth mindset. And then 3, learn and practice new strategies to build resiliency to failure so that when it does happen, you can bounce back quickly and refocus on pleasure. And I think there's another... Oh, here we go. This is the other part of it, right? Luckily, by applying the traditional concept of imposter syndrome to our sex lives, we can pull from the suggestions that imposter syndrome researchers and psychologists recommend to stop it from taking over. 1, speak it out loud. 2, reframe your failures. 3, bolster your strengths. 4, seek a representation. 5, ask for help. And 6, reimagine success. And I think what a lot of people... Oh yeah, here, right? There's like this one, right? Like the perfect sexual standard. You know, like what do I think I have to do in order to be good? What has to happen for me to like achieve certain things and meet certain goals, and why is that what I'm saying I have to do? Because the reality is that nothing's ever going to be perfect. Nothing's ever going to be like the exact correct thing to do. The goal should be like you both being happy and comfortable. And if you're sacrificing you know, time together because, you know, he's working a bunch of extra shifts and doing all this other stuff. You're not actually spending time together because now there's so much extra work happening. So I don't know. That's really difficult though. I'm sorry you guys are going through that. It's a difficult thing, but hopefully that gives you maybe some nuggets to chew on. Yeah. Yeah, like you can't ever be perfect at everything. Like I think sometimes you just gotta like help people be like, all right, please do not fix things for me. Only fix things that I ask you to fix. And just be, sometimes you have to be really like kind of hardball about it, honestly. Like if you don't want your partner to help you doing, you know, help you with certain things and they just keep doing it, like you gotta lay down the law a little bit, be like, all right, you are sacrificing yourself too much. That is a boundary for me. I can't be in this type of dynamic where this is happening because somebody is doing something that they think I want that I don't really want. So like please do not do whatever thing unless I ask you to. And just like make it very clear this is not like, oh, she still really wants me to do it. She wants to be surprised. She's expecting me to do it but isn't saying because she's trying to be nice. Like just no. Like stop it. Just stop. Do not put yourself out for the sake of somebody else. At least to that extent. That's excessive. Because really, like, you can say the words, right? You can, with your actions, with your words, you can say, everything's fine, I'm okay. You don't need to do that. It is on them to trust you at some point. Like, if your words and actions are going together, if like it's one thing if like your actions say one thing and your words are different, like if there's a mismatch between your words and actions, like that can lead to confusion. But if they're synchronized, if you're just all the way through acting, saying the right thing, and you're repeating it over and over again, it is on them to listen to you and believe you, and they have to be brave and be willing to make that decision to do that. And I think it's almost worth investigating. I would imagine it's possibly there could be some kind of maybe fear behind that, anxiety behind that to drive them to that place. And I think it's worth digging down into, like, what is that anxiety? Where is it coming from? Does that match with reality? Is it helpful to keep doing it that way? Because clearly it's not working right now. So like you got to come up with some kind of alternative and then go from there and hopefully like work towards maybe having a more balanced balance in what you're doing and what you're spending time on. All right. Okay. So, okay, we're ready. It's already 7 o'clock. Okay. Hot tamales. Hot tamales. Are you a sub or a dom or what? I'm an enigma. I'm a great mystery. I am everything and nothing all at once. No, I am asexual. I am primarily submissive, but I also occasionally do other things. I do top occasionally. I am also a sadist, but my main thing is that I am a submissive. But because I am confident and I know things, literally from the time I was like 23 years old and I was on YouTube years ago, like I had people like they just assumed like she's like either I must be topping from the bottom and I must be a bratty submissive because I sound way too confident and I talk too much, or they assumed I was a dom because I talk too much and I say too much, which is kind of like silly. But people are just like that sometimes. Vagina Obscura by Rachel Gross, I guess? Gross? An Anatomical Voyage. Oh, okay, what is that about? Huh. Okay, interesting. Okay, that sounds like a fun book. Cool. The cover art, much better than the butt book. I love it. That is like some really funky art on the cover. Very nice. Okay. The cat was just standing on his shoulders like a parrot, like he's a pirate or something. That's funny. Cats do be catting. But I think I have a lot more authority outside the bedroom from what I've realized and been too demanding of my high standards. Oh, yeah. Like, I guess you just gotta, like, if you're realizing you're doing that, like, just, like, figuring out where you can kind of, like, ease those standards, like, in terms of, like, the laundry being done, the dishes being out of the sink, you know, socks being in the dirty laundry pile, you know, bed being made. Like, if you realize you're putting too much on him, like, yeah, like, you're different people. And I think this is a really important stage in the relationship to be able to identify that, like, your expectations that you have for yourself don't have to be the same expectations that you have of your partner's behavior. I've never seen anyone do birthday tickles before. I can see somebody doing that. Whoa, 1 minute of time equal the age you are. Like, imagine getting 20 minutes of tickles or 50 minutes of tickles, an hour of tickling. That might be a little bit much. maybe like 10 seconds for however old you are. Or maybe like a minute for every year after being 18. Maybe that would be more doable. What are your thoughts about the recent Till Lindemann conversation or controversy? So if you guys don't know, Till Lindemann, who is the lead singer, creator, sort of artistic force, maybe let's say, behind Rammstein, and then also he had an independent project that he did. It was basically part of a duo with another artist that I think the other person was like Danish or Swedish or something. But he's very famous for being, you know, he like is Rammstein for a lot of people. And I always liked his music much more than I liked Marilyn Manson's, just like for the record, throw it out there. So it was like really sad for me, but also not surprising. Like, I heard about it and I was like, you know, at some point we got to stop being shocked that the openly admitting to being a sex pest rock stars are similar in their private lives as they are during their stage shows or during their music. Like, it's not surprising to me at all that he has the capacity to, I'm being kind of vague because a lot of the sources for this are like in German and stuff, and I don't speak German, so I'm like not confident that I fully understand the whole story because I have to trust like translations to know what's going on. Like, it's not surprising to me at all that he would like, you know, behave badly towards groupies or mistreat fans or like anything like that. This all seems to be in the realm of possibility. Like, one of his like more recent music videos he did as part of his non-Rammstein project, there's a music video for a song called Platz eins, which means like first place, and it's meant to be like supposedly a very tongue-in-cheek satirical take on the excesses of being a rock star, but then also there's like a full-on like aggressive rough sex scene in it, and the full version of it that's uncensored is like on a porn website, and like there's a whole bunch of other stuff going on there. So I'm not surprised at all. Like, I'm not talking about it because one, most of the sources are in German, and so like I don't fully understand what's happening, and also because nothing in it is like alleged to be like, oh, he's just kinky or whatever. Like, yeah, like Till's probably like has a fucked up sexuality, but I feel like he's always talked about that at the same time, right? Like, he got kicked off of the like junior Olympic team for like the Soviet Union because he grew up in East Germany, because he like was sneaking into like an adult video store to steal pornography, and he got caught by the police. So like, he's always been, you know, he's always been a little bit of a sex pest, and his music certainly reflects sort of his you know, sexual old man maybe mentality. That's like, he has to be almost 60 by this point. He's definitely in his late 50s. He's very close in age to Marilyn Manson. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, we'll see what ends up coming out. Like, I just don't know enough about it, but I'm going to say that if something is alleged that ends up being true, like, I wouldn't surprise me. It's not, like, I'm not even going to be like, oh, these people are lying, they're trying to get famous. Like, I don't think that's what's happening at all. I just, like, wouldn't be surprised. Like, even if it's not something that's currently happening now, in the past, I totally believe that, like, oh, a weird, tortured artist likes to do weird, fucked up sex things in their music, does other fucked up sex things in their private life? Who would have guessed? Like, it's not shocking to me at all. Yeah, I know he's very known. Like he's like, especially the like Deutschland music video. Like even I know about that. But also like I think like specifically the stuff about like historical stuff in Germany and like that. I think that's much more defensible. Like to me, that always makes sense. I know it's. I think he is 60. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, I know it's like a lot of that stuff is very controversial, but like specifically the sex stuff, like which he always has done a lot of in his music videos, is not surprising. So yeah, lots of German teachers asked to have his video in history lessons due to the details and as a way to like make people slightly understand of German patriotism, like bad past getting better. Yeah, I think that's really good for that. I mean, like my German teacher in high school, I didn't take German, but the one that was at my high school, um, she definitely used a couple of songs for like learning like basic stuff about Germany and like German grammar. So definitely people would use it for that. Which I mean, like I was in Spanish class, we used Shakira. So like, what's the difference? you know, well maybe a little bit, maybe. Maybe a bit. Maybe there is a little bit. I don't think Shakira has those kinds of allegations or maybe that same extent of behavior. But yeah, it's sad, but like, I can't I just don't like there's very few artists out there that if I heard they did something bad, I would be like devastated and shocked and be in disbelief. Like just about any celebrity ever, you could tell me they did something like, bad to a fan and I'd be like, yeah, it's probably like sure. I just don't have any. I don't have like it's so like the money and the fame, especially when you're used to being very like, tongue in cheek and like kind of getting away with stuff because you're like pushing the envelope for art's sake. It's not surprising that like, maybe you push it too far in other areas too. I mean, in America, it's definitely not illegal to like fire somebody for no reason. Depending on where you live, like if it's like right to work states and things, like the laws are different everywhere, but like you can just fire somebody and say it's like not for any particular reason, but then the background reason is because they're swingers, because that's not like a protected class. If you were fired for like marrying somebody of a different race, then that would be different if they could prove that was the reason, that the firing happened. But for stuff like being fired for being kinky or being a swinger or being polyamorous or like none of that is considered protected. None of it. I mean, honestly, like kind of part of this conversation we've been having for Pride this year has been like, is polyamory an orientation? Is it queer? Is being kinky queer? Is that an orientation? And a lot of states, like, I don't know about Oregon exactly, but I know Washington does. Like, a lot of the anti work discrimination laws, like, do cover sexual orientation. So maybe we will end up having a case at some point where it's a couple or a person that's part of a polycule or like a kinky relationship gets fired for being in that type of relationship, and then they intend to make an argument that that is a sexual orientation, that is also a form of discrimination. I haven't heard of that happening yet, but like I'm sure at some point, depending on how the law is written, that's going to end up happening somewhere. In right to work states, smart, evil bosses, they don't give a reason because that can get them in trouble, but no reason can't. Yeah, exactly. They just say, oh, it wasn't for any reason, just because I felt like it. Because fuck you. And then the real reason is because, they found out you followed a swingers retreat page on Facebook or something. I don't know. It's just silly, but there's not really any protections for it. But it could change, right? Like all of that could definitely change at some point. And I think at some point we're going to have somebody that challenges it on the basis of like, well, this is part of my sexual orientation is to be polyamorous. And so you're discriminating against me for something about me that I can't change. Now, personally, I will say, I'm going to make a video about this. I don't think we can say as a universal fact that polyamory is an orientation. because I don't experience it that way. Most people I know that are poly don't experience it that way. It's like, this is an immutable characteristic that I was born with. This is how I am. Almost everyone I know that is poly, that practices it, they do it because it makes the most sense as an option to choose based on what they want to get out of a relationship. Like, it's an active choice to do it, and they could do something differently, and they could be monogamous, and sometimes a lot of people do, right? Like, a lot of people try out being poly and then decide that they're not, or they're poly for a while and then they have kids or want to get married or something, and then they stop being poly. Like, you don't normally stop, like most orientations, you don't stop being that thing because you choose to be something else, you know, temporarily, right? Like, if you don't stop your bisexuality isn't erased because you like marry somebody of the opposite sex or gender, right? But with poly, people sometimes like walk away permanently from it because, like, oh, we're gonna have kids, so us being poly is over now. Like, they just like choose to not like do it anymore because it's not that big of a deal, because they can just walk away from it because it was something they were doing temporarily for a certain advantage that wasn't really a key part of who they are. But at the same time, this is the nuance here, is that there are people that it is very strongly who they are, and being monogamous makes them deeply, deeply unhappy, and they could not handle being monogamous. They would simply choose to not have a relationship rather than be monogamous. So it's very much a spectrum of experiences. And so I think, unlike maybe other conversations we've had in the past about like being gay or lesbian or bisexual, where it's, you know, it's very clear like this thing doesn't stop just because of other choices that you make. I think with poly, or not even with other choices that you make, but like, I don't think people are, well, unless you're talking about like Christian conservatives, most people are making arguments about like, oh, you can just choose to not be gay anymore. Like, polyamory is something a lot of people choose because they want to take advantage of the advantages, but then they'll also stop being it if those advantages start being outweighed by the negatives, or they hit certain life stages or whatever. Like, it's not like this like world-shattering self-identity thing if they have to stop being that thing where it feels untrue to no longer be it. It's just sort of like, oh yeah, we're done with poly. Like, we're over that. It's over. I don't know. It's confusing though, because like everyone's so individual. So I think anyone trying to make very sweeping statements about it's never this, it's always this, it just is this thing, is missing out on a lot of the actual reality, which is it's complicated. Nadia had a question that she was very anxious to have answered. I haven't seen a question from Nadia yet. Unless we're talking about the birthday tickle one. I will look for it though. If you want to repeat it in the chat right now, I will answer it right away. Because I don't see it, and I'm worried I may have missed it because of how long this stream's been going on for. I'll look for it though. Just make sure I don't miss it. I would want a play partner, but I'm too scared because of my past trauma, and people in FetLife usually don't take time enough for me to trust them. Kind of feels like I won't be able to overcome it. I mean, like, working through trauma, like, that takes time. Absolutely. Like, I think you can. I believe in you. Like, there are tools to be able to do that. But, like, I don't think meeting people through FetLife is usually the best way to do it either. I don't think people on FetLife are really trustworthy. I think meeting people in person is so much better for that. Especially if you're reassurance that they are who they say they are. It was after the birthday tickles. Yeah, if you want to retype it, I'll keep an eye out for it. I just, sometimes if you don't have a question mark, I'll miss it. My coworkers were teasing me today because I haven't worn pants since I was like 20. I've worn a dress every day. I mean, that sounds very comfortable. I do like jeans though. I couldn't give up the jeans. Thank you so much for the in-depth response, Evie. Seriously, it's so nice to get ideas and input from someone that has a lot of experience in the scene. You are so welcome. I feel like pre-trauma polyamory was immutable, and now I'm relationship repulsed and mostly solitary. I mean, that's rough. Trauma? I mean, like, Trauma is a very real thing, and I feel like in the community, I'm kind of like kink, poly, all of that all together. I feel like we kind of pay lip service to it of like recognizing that people live with trauma, but we don't really talk about like what that actually means, right? Like in terms of like how it affects relationships and dating and socializing. We kind of just go, oh yeah, people with like whatever are welcome here, but then we don't always make actual like meaningful space and room for people still processing that and living with that and actually being understanding of how that can affect people's experiences and interactions. How would I talk to a potential girlfriend about my kink? I mean, I think they would be turned away just because I have a kink without knowing what it is. I like the playful stuff, not sexual. So like tickling, I imagine, right? Because I think you mentioned it was like connected to the tickling thing or like around the tickling thing. I do have in the FAQ, I do have a link and to like where I've talked about like how to introduce kink to a partner before. It's a really, really common question because obviously, yeah, it's like very nerve-wracking to have to like bring up something that is very vulnerable. And I think I always try to keep in mind, if you need that thing to be truly happy in a relationship, like you need to have it be part of your relationship, what's better, hiding it and then being with somebody for 5 years who's never going to be into it, or knowing up front whether or not your partner or a potential partner is going to be open to exploring this thing? I'm going to keep referencing this because it's like on my brain. I feel like this isn't so much about like sharing a particular thing. This is more about like communication in general, like how to be a good communicator, which is a little bit of a different thing than what you're going through. But this is about like how to be like good with consent. I think the best way to do it is to frame it. I mean, not just frame it, but like have it be a two-way conversation of, you want to make sure that you're compatible. You want to make sure that you're going to be on the same page in terms of what you want out of a relationship, be that for sex things or for not. And I think you can naturally weave that into a conversation of like, let's say you meet somebody, you really hit it off, you haven't talked to them about the kink thing yet, but like, you know, maybe you get the hint that they're kinky or they mention it in their profile somewhere, or you met them in a kink context. Obviously, like the best way to get around this is to just meet people that are kinky, because then it like everyone has a kink and then it's all equal, right? Whereas if you're meeting vanilla people or people you assume are vanilla and then you want to be able to introduce it to them, yeah, you're going to have a much lower hit rate that way if you're trying to just like introduce vanilla people to a kink concept. But I would frame it as a mutual thing of like, I would really like it if we could like, let's say you've gone on like 4 or 5 dates, it's going really well. You want to keep progressing in the relationship. You want to keep seeing them. Haven't brought it up yet. I think that's when you start bringing up the conversation of like, I've really been enjoying our time together. I really enjoyed XYZ thing that we did. I really look forward to exploring more. And one thing that I think is really fun to do is this. What do you think about it? Like, you're not saying it's a fetish. You're not saying it's a kink. You're not saying it's like, I want to have a DS gimp suit dungeon scenario happen, because I think if you like just say I want to do BDSM, a lot of people are going to be like, that's what they're going to picture is like, you know, something from a movie, something from a piece of media somewhere where BDSM is always shown as this really extreme like dour thing, which it doesn't have to be at all. And I think if you just bring it up like that, like, I think tickling is really fun. You can even more frame it. You can kind of couch it a little bit farther and maybe something like I really enjoy getting to be playful with my partners. And one way that I think's like an easy way to do that is with this. Like, have you done that before? Like, you're not treating it like it's this like super weird, outlandish thing. It's just like something that you happen to enjoy doing. You have a reason for liking it and you want to introduce it into the relationship. And then from there, you're going to get probably like 1 to 3 responses, right? Oh my gosh, no, absolutely not. That sounds disgusting. How dare you? And then you just like, don't talk to them again. That one's pretty rare, right? Most of the things that you're going to have for a response is either going to be like, oh, I don't really know about that. I could try to guess if you want to, but I'm not really sure. Or, that sounds fun. I think I'd like to do that. I think most of the responses are going to be one of those two latter things. So I think if you can just not even be realistic, but just don't make a mountain out of a molehill, right? And I think this is the problem people are in, especially when it's a kink that's like really important to somebody. Like if you're like, this is your kink, it's very easy to like make this whole really big production that's super important, super overwrought. And the more you make it sound like this is really, really high stakes and super important, that's going to put the other person in a negative space for receiving that information, because they can maybe pick up on your anxiety or nervousness. They get nervous because it seems like a really big deal, and there's a lot of pressure for them to give a certain answer based on that. But being really casual about it, I think, makes it a lot easier. And then again, ultimately, like if you need that to be in a relationship to be happy, it is, especially, you know, as I've learned from, you know, getting older, it is always worth it to know up front whether or not a relationship is going to be compatible versus trying to make something work for years and years and years, stuffing down your own needs and never getting those needs met. Okay, I think I'm going to move on to another question, but let me know if you have any follow-up thoughts or things that you want to share. I love his okay. I'm just going to read this how it is verbatim, and then I'm going to just see if that still makes sense. I love his a caring / tough daddy, but I get too jealous when he is also caring for other people, and in general, is it normal? How do I stop this feeling? Oh, the monster of jealousy. So many books have been written about this, Loopy. So many. So normal is a loaded word, because jealousy is very normal most of the time in society. I think it is, especially if you're younger and you're vanilla, a lot of people take jealousy as a positive sign, right? Like almost to the point of you're supposed to test people to see if they get jealous. And then if they don't, then they fail the test. And that means they don't really care about you. A lot of people glorify jealousy as being this big positive sign that they like you enough. And I don't think that that's really necessarily true. I think it is entirely possible that you can have too much jealousy and for that to not be productive. So I think, yes, it is normal. However, that may not be productive for what you want to get out of the relationship. So, for example, being jealous in general because your partner is being caring towards like their coworkers or parents or people in your community or a neighbor, like that's probably excessive. Now, if by being caring towards other people, you're like, well, we have another shared partner, and then, you know, he spends 5 days a week with them and only 2 with me, like that's different. And it's like, okay, your underlying needs aren't being met. It's not like just that he cares about anyone at all, but that your caring needs aren't being met first. So how do you stop this feeling? Great question. If you look on Amazon, and I'll go ahead, I'll try to find a link for this. There are many, like poly specific usually, jealousy workbooks you can use to help you identify the underlying feelings you're having. Because the way that this is talked about, especially in like polyamorous spaces, I don't know about like in other like spaces if this is like a thing, but jealousy is like very rarely its own emotion. Like jealousy is typically a representation of an umbrella of other possible feelings, right? It could be fear of loss, right? Is a really big one. Envy for what somebody else has that you wish that you had. It could be greed, right? Wishing that somebody was only just for you and for nobody else. So it can be many other things underneath that jealousy. So step number 1 is identifying the underlying emotion that is what the jealousy really is, and then figuring out how to work on that individual emotion. I'm trying to find a link to this book, but Amazon for some reason makes it very difficult to just send a link to a thing. Whatever, I'm just not gonna, let's put a Goodreads link in there and then you can decide where you want to buy it from. But it's called The Jealousy Workbook, and it is by Kathy Labriola, who I believe also wrote the polyamory breakup book, I want to say. I think that was her. I can just check, I guess, because I'm on Goodreads anyways. Yeah, she wrote the polyamory breakup book. So that's a pretty good resource if you want to know. And it has really good reviews. So, and then she is, I think she's also a marriage and family therapist. And so she works with polyamorous people and, also singles as well. I guess they're dealing with jealousy. And it's a really good way to get a look at some skill sets for dealing with jealous feelings. So it is normal. It is very common. You do not have to be trapped in feelings of shame, insecurity, jealousy, or whatever. Yeah, fear of abandonment or rejection. Insecurity and shame, feeling not good enough. Yep, also very common. Yeah. All of that stuff. Jealousy is usually a multifaceted thing in my experience. You have to be a little bit careful when you're reading about jealousy advice, because a lot of it is written from this sort of like masculine perspective on emotions, which is like, emotions are bad. Don't make your feelings other people's responsibility. If you feel jealous, that's only on you. Only you can change blah, blah, blah. Like, it just really loading it on other people, on themselves to fix it. And sometimes like partners do stuff that makes you feel jealous on purpose, and that's bad, and that's not productive, and it's like they are doing things that cause you to feel jealous on purpose, and then like, yeah, you need to work on that. Like, it's not just you at that point. Sometimes partners can do things to provoke you and cause feelings that are not positive. I think that cognitive reframing can be really helpful. This is like a thing, right? Like, if what you admire about your partner is that they're caring and tough, if what they're doing is they're being caring in general to other people, you can either think about that like, they should only be that way with me, or you can try to change the way you think about it to be more like, I love that other people get to experience what I think is the best thing about my partner. Like, I love that this is something that other people get to share in because he is so wonderful, and I want as many people as possible to be touched by like how wonderful he is. So it's very possible to change how you feel about that. But just be patient with yourself. Be kind with yourself. Jealousy is usually because it's, I guess before you start working on it, you have to be prepared to realize it's not just like picking up a single rubber band, right? It's picking up a ball of rubber bands most of the time. If you've never dealt with jealousy feelings before, you haven't really addressed them, it's like if you lived in an apartment for 20 years and then you never cleaned under the oven, and then you moved the oven and had to clean out underneath the oven for the first time. It's probably going to be pretty dirty and nasty and gross. There's going to be stuff in there you didn't realize was down there. You'd be like, oh, it's a nickel? How did that happen? Like, how did a nickel end up under the oven? You're going to find things with that are more than just what you were looking for originally. And so make sure you have space to be able to deal with that if you're going to be dredging it up, because it's probably going to pull up a lot of feelings, especially like fear of loss is going to be really prominent a lot of the times. I was under the impression it isn't okay to non-consensually cause jealousy. I was under the impression it's my responsibility if I'm jealous. I mean, like, some people just do insane shit. Like, Like, some people, like, they like making their partners feel bad. And it's difficult to imagine this if we're not people who do this. But there are people out there that enjoy provoking negative emotions in their partners because it helps them feel in control. And sometimes you do it in a consensual, fun, kinky way. And sometimes you do it because you're a fucking asshole. And you do it because you like feeling like you're better and reminding yourself that you're in control and your partner's not. Yeah. It is not okay for just to, like, it's one thing if it's like the examples I'm thinking of, they're sort of like intentionally doing things to make people jealous. Like, your partner has expressed discomfort at you kissing another partner in front of you. And so what they choose to do is they have the partner come over for like a dinner or something. And then the first thing they do right in front of you on purpose while making eye contact is make out with the other partner. That's intentional. That's malicious. But also it can be things like doing things that are borderline that you are pretty sure that your partner wouldn't enjoy you doing, but doing it anyway because fuck them and their feelings, they don't really matter, right? See, what's like a good example of this, right? And a lot of it's also connected to like boundary breaking too, right? Like if you say, like, before you go out on a date with a new person, I want to know that you're going on that date, right? Like, don't hide new dates from me. If they're like maliciously hiding dates and you find out about it afterwards, you're probably going to feel jealous because there's this new person you didn't know about. And, you know, they didn't follow what your boundaries were. So, yeah. It's a big thing. It is different if jealousy happens spontaneously or if it's someone's deliberately causing jealousy in a partner. Yeah. It's like one thing if, like, you're jealous because, you know, your partner, you know, goes to a restaurant that you went to together before and they take a new person there and you feel jealous because I thought that was our restaurant. And it's like, well, when did we ever have that conversation? Like, it's just a restaurant. I like it. I want to take somebody else there to enjoy it. That's a scenario when the jealousy is like, that's very internal. That's like not, it's not that it's not valid to feel jealous. The feeling's valid, but the proportion of it is maybe not productive. It's maybe not suitable, like, for what you want to achieve for your relationship. And so then you have to figure out how to deal with the jealousy. Yeah. Hopefully that makes sense. Yeah, jealousy is a hard one for sure. Okay, answer the question about the potential girlfriends. Making someone jealous just to make themselves feel good is very toxic if they don't care about their partner. Some people like do it because they think it's like funny or because they think it's what people want. And they're like, oh, I'm just making a joke. I'm just being funny. And it's like, there's a limit to like what's funny. Sure, it might be funny for you, but not for other people. Yep, a lot of people will say they are cool with poly and then sabotage your other relationships. Oh yeah, I definitely like, this is never a one-way thing, but some people will just like, they'll say, yeah, I'm cool with poly, and then they try it, and then they like, I don't even know, like, they just try. Yeah, they just like try to make the other relationships not work, right? They're calling during the date all the time with like an emergency. They're texting constantly whenever their partner's out of the house. Like, they're like, okay, you can go on a date, but only on Tuesdays when I have a date between the hours of 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. And they can't come to the house. And if they come to the house, they can't do this, they can't do that. And they set up like these impossible rules. And they're like, well, poly didn't work for us because poly's stupid. And it's like, no, it's not that polyamory is stupid. It's that you tried to be a dictator. And then it didn't work because your partner couldn't actually have other partners. They could only essentially have a sex doll for 3 hours a week. And even that made you deeply uncomfortable, and then you didn't really want to do it anymore. So, yeah, it's, people are messy. Who would have guessed? Yeah, people are messy. That's really hard. Yeah, I'm a sub girl. She's a dom, and mostly what would happen would be she would cancel on me so she can be with other people. And being polyamorous, I was trying to be understanding. She said it's my problem if I'm jealous and I cannot control her because of my emotions. Oh, I hate that. That is like a trigger phrase for me. I fucking go Winter Soldier when I hear the phrase. When I hear the phrase, don't control me with your emotions. I don't know where this comes from or what fucking book this comes from. Whatever it is, it needs to be deleted. Because people have this, like, yes, you can't use your feelings as a weapon towards other people, right? Like, I don't know why my camera, the pet camera, keeps turning back on. I don't know if I'm doing that by accident or what. But anyways, like, yeah, like, you can't be like, I'd be too sad if you left. Please don't leave me. And then, like maliciously use your feelings to control other people's behavior. But there's a very big difference between expressing what your feelings are as information for your partner and being honest and giving full disclosure as you should be doing, and maliciously trying to keep somebody from doing something you don't like because you are unwilling to do internal work, you know? Oh, the banditti has landed. Maximum zoom. Okay. Dog zone time. Okay. Yeah, no, there's a big difference between that and like, oh, just like you can't control other people with like the phrase I wish that could be replaced with is you are responsible for your own feelings, right? And that includes your feelings about other people's feelings, okay? If you hearing that somebody is sad about something makes you uncomfortable and then you make certain decisions based off of that, that's also you. You could have chosen to hear that and do a different behavior, but you didn't. So, yeah, like people just sort of have summarized all reactions and feelings as being like, stop controlling me with your feelings. And it's like, no, like, they're not saying I'm this, so don't do this, or because I'm this, you can't do that, or like threatening people with things, or saying like, if you do this, I'm gonna whatever myself. Like, no. Like that versus just saying like, it makes me like I feel up like open, honest communication, which usually involves primarily disclosing your feelings, like when one of our dates gets, like, it makes me sad when one of our dates gets canceled at the last minute so that way you can see somebody else. That's not you controlling. That's you saying, here's how I'm feeling. This is my processing right now. There you go. You know what's happening. And if they're a good person and a kind person, they will typically check in with you and be like, oh, why does that happen? Why do you feel that way? What's going on? And they're going to try to help you with that. And I would say, no, it's not normal for, like, if they're only ever canceling on you to be with other people, you are not their priority. They are playing mindfuck games with you because they know they can get away with it. They know that you're just going to sit there and still be available for them whenever they want you, but they don't have the same obligation the other way. You are just like the bonus, tertiary, when you feel like it if nobody else is available person. And that's shitty. That's not a good place to be. Now, it's one thing if you're very upfront initially about like, hey, I'm really busy. I have other people that I prefer seeing, and like, we can kind of see each other when we can make that happen. But if they're being super flaky with you and you don't like that, is it controlling other people's actions to be like, hey, don't cancel on me and be a flaky ass bitch? Like, I don't think so. And if it is, it sounds pretty gosh darn reasonable. Yeah, it's a dick move to cancel on you to be with somebody else, especially on like a regular basis. To me, that very much signals that you are not the priority, and moreover, that you will never be the priority. And that's like if this is how they treat you now, they're not going to treat you better later. And I think you're describing it perfectly. I mean, I don't mean to call you out like this, but this is the thing, right? Like, you are worthy of a better fucking relationship for somebody that will make time for you. Just, it's one thing, like, I have partnerships where, like, the other people are not very available, and I have other relationships, people are, like, available all the time. And that's always talked about up front. Like, if I'm with somebody who has 10 other partners, like, yeah, like, we're gonna know up front, like, oh, I can only really see you once a month. Okay, like, I may choose based on that information to not pursue a relationship. Or if it's like, hey, I have 3 other partners and I'm a lawyer and I have all this, like, I like work 80 hours a week and I only have like one Tuesday every other Tuesday to be able to, like, 2 Tuesdays a month to be able to see you. I might choose to be like, hey, I like you enough to where that's worth it for me. And if they do that and then we can keep that going and it's on a regular basis, fine. If that's how they say it's going to go and then they keep canceling on me at the last minute, no, not happening. Sorry, I have way too many other things I'd rather be doing with my time. Absolutely. Yeah. There's an involuntary hierarchy here, there, which is really shitty if not pre-negotiated. Yeah. Mm-hmm. If you leave, be ready for the I can change song and dance. I mean, honestly, I don't get the kind of vibe that this person would have that. I get the vibe that it would be more like, whatever, fuck you, I didn't like you anyways, you're not a good partner anyways, actually I never was attracted to you. Like, if you decide to take back power and be like, sorry, I'm canceling on you permanently, don't say it like that, don't be a dick back, but you can think it on the inside. They're probably gonna get angry. The picture I get is that they're not gonna bid for attention back. They're gonna be like, I'm better anyways. I didn't need you anyways. Look at all these other amazing people I have. Fuck you. And then they're gonna go nuclear. Nuclear. She said she wants to explicitly avoid hierarchy. Yeah, she wants to avoid hierarchy for herself. She doesn't want to be the bottom person in the hierarchy, but she's fine making other people be that for her. So she's saying one thing and doing something else. Okay. Yeah. She is explicitly, her actions, this is what I talked about earlier, right? Like, your actions and your words being in congruity with each other. And in this case, her words and her actions are not in congregation with each other. So what that means is you take what their actions are. If they're saying one thing and doing something else, you go by what they're doing, not what they're saying. And what she's doing right now is not making you a priority. She's making a clear hierarchy between her other partners, and she is not living her own values. And so, I mean, if you want to be a little bitchy about it, I would maybe say something like, hey, it's been great getting to see you the few times we've been able to make that happen. I really feel like I'm never going to be a priority for you. I know that you have said that you don't want to have any kind of hierarchy, but in my observation, you are making a hierarchy, one that you were always at the top of, and it feels like you're not living your values. And I can't be with somebody who's not living their values. So have a nice time with the other partners. Please delete all our messages and all our photos. Sayonara. Like, there you go. Yeah, she does her twirl. She's the banditti loves a good twirl. Well, there's your nail in the coffin there, Grass. This hierarchy exactly. Yup. Are there people she's canceling on you for? part of her poly group? Are there friends, family, work events? Yeah, exactly. The sense I get, and maybe I like, if it's like, oh, like, but also it's like almost it doesn't matter. Like, you have limited time on this fucking earth. And if she's canceling on you, it's one thing if it's like, oh, I slept in. Oh, I forgot I had a work meeting. Oh, like my car broke down. Like that can happen once or twice. But if it keeps happening all the time, I don't care if it's just to see other partners or not. Like, her life is not organized enough to be able to sustain all of her relationships, and you are going to be on the short end of her disorganized stick. So, be with somebody who's more organized and has time and can make plans and keep them. She is a very good twirler, it's true. Canceling a get-together does happen and is fine in and of itself, but if it happens regularly, is a problem. Yeah, it's a habit of not, like, if it happens more than twice in, like, 2 months, it's a habit. Or their life is just disorganized and chaotic and they're not good at keeping a schedule, and that will probably always be a problem. Like, essentially, you are on call for this relationship. Do you want to be on call and be in a relationship? No. You don't want to just be, like, always available because you never know. But, and almost, this is, like, not saying they're doing this, but, like, this can be used in a really malicious way. Like, if you are constantly sowing doubt about, like, you know, oh, like, how available are they going to be? Can they have time for me? Like, you're, like, it's almost like a fucking alpha male podcaster fucking this is how to make girls addicted to you pickup artist type thing, where it's like, yeah, I'll never let her know what you're really thinking or how available you are, make it so she's always available for you. Like, people are nuts. Okay, where's my dog? She like went fully off camera here. She is in an unknown location. Oh, here we go. Full Dutch angle here. Okay, up, there we go. Where you going, Banditi? Where you going, little girl? Hi. A little overheated? I know. It's a hot day. It's a hot day. I love having my dog in a Dutch angle on screen. Okay, we have 10 minutes left, so we're going to probably get to 1 or 2 more questions, and then we're going to wrap up. I had someone who would just decide traffic was bad and not tell me she wasn't coming. What? People are nuts, okay? People are just lost it entirely. Like, yeah, it's you, but, like, traffic's kind of bad, though. Like, goddamn. Like, almost all of my relationships involve me driving to see other people almost every single time. Like, there is very rare I have people come to my space. I am always the one finding restaurants, planning things. Like, usually the other person will pick a day, and then, like, I'll pick, like, okay, what are we doing, like, what hour, like, well, I shouldn't say that. Like, I don't want to be uncharitable and make it sound like it's really only just me. Like, usually be like, okay, something that works for their schedule, and then, like, I'm doing the driving. I'm, like, you know, it's a whole thing. I cut it off with a friend who basically told me that he felt like he was hoping he could fix me, but it wasn't working or something. I told him that he should be thankful. Oh my gosh. Okay, there's like probably going to be a part 2 to this one. But like, goddamn, people, you can't just like silently be like, I'm going to fix this person and I'm going to tell them it's happening, but I'm going to like behavior modify them without their consent. Like, fucking people that are obsessed with fixing other people need to fix themselves first. I hate this. People are always looking at other people's problems and being like, I can fix that. And be like, bitch, what about you? Fix thine self. It's always the people that like, they're like, I'm perfect and I have no problems. Meanwhile, they have like a ton of unresolved trauma, mommy issues, don't know how to communicate, can't be direct, are super passive aggressive and have no time management skills and can't stay focused. And they're like, I'm going to fix other people. And it's like, what are you doing, dude? Come on now. Great brows, by the way. No, I mean, I just like filled them in the way I normally do for videos. I think honestly it's mostly just that I have different lighting now, and like my whole face looks different. Like it looks really good. I'm like shiny. Cause I think my sunscreen's just like a little bit too something something. I gotta put powder on next time. Yep, exactly. Keep listening to your gut. Poly can be a lot, and we can often feel alone in our struggles. Just know that there is a whole community behind you who will sympathize with your struggles. Yes, there are people. I don't recommend Facebook groups from what I've heard about them, but there are many communities you can be a part of that are supportive and will, like me, tell you that that is some dumbass bullshit and will tell you that you deserve better because you do. Okay. Let's see if we can get to one or two more questions here. You should go on the Whatever podcast. I would love to hear your rebuttals to the manosphere types. I would rather rip out my own spinal cord than have to do that. Because the problem with that is it's never really an honest conversation. They just want to go on there and they want to debate you and tell you that you're 3 and you're not attractive and nobody wants to fuck you and that you are stupid and women are stupid and you're stupid. Like, why would I do that to myself? Oh no! Slime Rancher is a really fun game. I'm sorry about that you lost all your chickens. I really need to play Slime Rancher too, honestly. Great game, I'm sure. Can we also talk about people who bring up trying poly as an excuse to cheat? I had an ex-fiance blame me because I wanted monogamy at the time, which we had been for 2 years. Oh yeah. I mean, a lot of people like say like, oh babe, can we have an open relationship? And then like 2 days later, like I found somebody, and it's like, you had that person in your back pocket the whole time. Yeah, there's definitely people that like, they start cheating and then they feel guilty. So then they go, oh, well, if I just make this an open relationship now, then it's fine. And it's like, no, you wanted this to be okay. And then you tried to get a retroactive pass. Yeah. I know, I'd just literally be creating free content for them. I can't be bought. Also, I'm pretty sure I'm too old for them. I think once you get past 25, they don't want you to be on the show because you're not like a peak attractiveness woman. And it's like, goddamn, listen, I have more success now in my late 20s than I ever did in my early 20s. Listen, I am living large. I've got all kinds of attention. My life's great. I'd way rather be 28 than 22. Okay, one more question. Who will it be? Who will it be? Girl Sex 101 is a good read for anyone who isn't a cis gay man who only engages with cis men. Very trans, NB, ace, and disability inclusive. That sounds great. We love that. Ace inclusive sex book? Oh yeah, I'm sold. I am sold. What do I like wearing to kink parties? Extremely extra shit. No, the answer is I like wearing lots of layers. I recommend layered stuff. Usually I start with some kind of lingerie underneath and then I build on top of that with like skirts and stockings and tights or gloves or boleros or jackets and like other stuff and harnesses and collars, and then pretty soon you've got a whole cool looking outfit, but you can undress and like, you know, I like stuff that usually has like a cheeky fit to it, so like the butt is available while still being able to like wear clothing. I think that's like a really good thing to have. Layers is the key though. Layers and black, and typically like pre-messy makeup. I do like makeup for parties. I do like wearing makeup for parties, but I try not to make it super fancy because it will get smudged and destroyed. Oh, thank you for the super chat. Thank you so much. Okay, one more question. I'm looking for a BDSM community website that isn't very pornographic, as porn is very triggering to me. Any help? I mean, FetLife is really the biggest one. I know a lot of people are using the Bloom community app for organizing events. So if you want to find events to find people, that might be a good alternative. I don't really use it that much. But as far as like a really big website that isn't very pornographic, that's like a community website? That's kind of, yeah, I don't really know. I will look into it though. I'll let you know if I find something. Okay, trying to find one more question here. Do you think, what do you think about people who fake that they're into BDSM just to be liked / hip, and when that goes wrong in a relationship due to sexual incompatibility, like before relationship green, after red? I mean, I haven't run into many people like this in my personal life. I think what tends to happen more often is people like don't know what kink is. Like, we watched a video yesterday on the Patreon live stream that was a Jubilee video, I think, or cut video. I think it was Jubilee, where it was like we asked 100 people what the kinkiest thing they've ever done is. And like the vast majority of answers were like sex in public, I think was like the plurality of answers. A lot of sex in public, a lot of like having like sex in a shower. Like there was very few things that were actually like super kinky or BDSM-y. So I think a lot of people, they don't fake being into BDSM. They just don't realize like there's sort of like the vanilla person's definition of what counts as being kinky, and there's a kinky person's definition of what counts as being kinky. So I think a lot of people just go, oh yeah, baby, I'm super kinky. But what they really like is like rough sex or like getting a blowjob in a car, and they're like, that's kinky, which like it can be kind of, but like usually like that's not what in the community we think of as being kinky. But if they're literally just doing it because they think it's trendy, I mean, usually those people in my experience kind of just like end up not staying around for very long because they hop on to whatever the newest trend is. And I mean, it sucks being in a relationship where you're genuinely kinky and the other person you're with is lying about their experience level or their interest level to be able to be with you. That is shitty. Absolutely. Yeah, the questions I'm reading now are from earlier in the chat. I think that's probably a good place to end it. Little sleepy bandidly, being so snoozy. Such a snoozy baby. Good girl. Good snoozy girl. Yeah. All right. That's my little snoozy dog, Reno. Thank you all so much for being here on this Friday evening. We do these every Friday at 6 o'clock. If you have not already, please go ahead and subscribe, notification, bells, all of that good stuff. Again, every Friday we do these. Video will be up tomorrow if you want new YouTube content. Lots of fun new stuff happening on Patreon as well. I am planning on doing a video this month about cuckolding. and all the variations therein about cuckolding, because I literally cannot even type the word cuckolding on YouTube. Otherwise, it gets flagged, demonetized, age gated, all of that crazy business. So, fun stuff happening there. I have a video on choking I did for last month, video previews, interviews, book reviews, live streams, movie nights, lots of stuff going on over there if you want to check it out. Thank you all so much for joining me as part of your Friday evening during these hours we have together. And hopefully I will see you all soon. Stay safe, have fun. And this is Bandy recognizing. She can hear, she noticed the tone of my voice. That's the saying goodbye. The saying goodbye. So anyways, good night, guys. And I will talk to you all again soon. Bye. You gonna react to that one? No, we're just sleepy. That's fine. Okay. Good night, guys.